Okay, so this week I added a bunch of new features. I moved the health and mana bar up top and add some graphics, which I'll do more with in later weeks. Add a leveling bar, which is just graphics at this point. It'll be interactive later. And then I added each of these squares, and they're related to 1 key, 2 key, 3 key, 4 key, 5 key, 6 key, etc. And they're pretty much, say I cast the 1 key spell, which is healing, and then I try to cast it again, I can't until it goes back to blue. So it's kind of refresh time, and I can change that refresh rate and speed and all that in the code pretty easily. Also, what else is new is I added a 2 key spell, attack spell, Fireball, and I also added code onto this standard dummy player so that he can take 4 hits and then he disappears. Okay, so I'll show pretty much how I accomplish this real quick. Starting with the graphics, designer here. Okay, so you can make image boxes, and then you can throw images in image boxes. So this here, the stuff behind these 2 bars are images, and each of these boxes are images, and this is a progress bar with an image overlaid, so that's different. And this here is a progress bar with an image overlaid. Not image, just a color for the progress. So basically, you get one of these boxes, you scale it to the scale that you want, so square. Then, in your assets content, whichever content you're working with, which I got some freebie content images to work with, and you just select the one you want, and in here you just hit this, and then it'll take that and put it here. So black square like the other squares. And that's essentially the process for all those. The progress bar, you have a top image, you have a fill image and the background image. That way, when you link code to the percentage of which one's being shown, you can have an increase on the level gain, so your characters can level up. I haven't added the code for that yet, but probably by next week, I'm assuming I'll probably get to that point. Here, it's just a color, and that's affected by the progress bar, which is a progress bar you can drag from here, and then you put whatever you need into it. Okay, so that's enough of the imagery. Let's get into the code more. So we have code on both of these. So we'll look at the third-person character, which is my custom character. There's a few new things in here. This whole piece is new. And then we add a little bit new to the healing spell. Essentially, we had it so that we added to the very end, at beginning and end. So when that character has an input, ability 1, we put a branch where it checks what's going on. So it's basically checking is a cooldown going on, and is that cooldown less than fully, 1 is 100% fully achieved, and if it's not, then it has consequences of not going forward until it is. And then at the very end, we have it so that when the make sure I'm reading this right. So when the cooldown ability is less than 1, um, oh no, one. Okay, let me. Okay. Um, Basically, what this is telling here is after the cooldown ability has been achieved. Um, oh no, sorry about that. It's the duration. This piece of code has to do with the duration of the cooldown. So, um, 2-second delay, and then 5 seconds interval. Not seconds, but milliseconds or something. That's what this piece of code essentially does. Okay, let's move on. So the fireball code. This one's a little bit more unique. So input on ability 2, which is set to the number 2 key, like I showed last week. Project settings I had created on the 2 key, which it's under input. Inputs. Okay. And I created inputs for the 2 key, and I given the ability to. Yeah, so we got when the button's pressed, then it checks if we are casting combat spell 1 and one-handed combat spell or one-handed healing spell. So it checks the 2, and it only goes forward if we're doing ability 2. And if the conditions for the minimum amount of mana, meaning you have to have at least this amount of mana to go forward, is met, then movement is disabled, character movement is disabled. Stop the movement immediately. It's extra redundancy, but it's sort of necessary. Set the mana -15, so minus what the requirement is. Then cast the spell. Set a duration so the animation has time to run. Spawn this particle effect projectile. And this is the location of the spawning. So basically we get that actor's location, and we set the location to plus and then 35 to increase the height of the animation to align it with the arm. And then we keep the other, the scale and the rotation the same. And then we put into the spawned location for the fireball. Then we give it a 1.5 second duration to play its animation before moving on. And when casting this combat ability, when no longer casting this combat ability, oh no, when casting it is done, because it's not checked, the target is allowed to walk again, and the target is the character's movement is allowed to walk again. Okay, so that's pretty much that piece of code. There are a few other things to go over real quick. Let's see where they are. There is the AI and the AI's code. Let's see. Okay. Okay, so actor begin overlap, meaning it's kind of beginning the scene, and something's gonna overlap the character. So when the fireball hits, essentially, um, cast to the magic projectile. So okay, our game's begun. We're casting magic projectile. Um, we get the actor's location for the spawning location of the emitter. So this is the impact explosion, when the fireball goes psh, when it hits. So this is getting the particle, and it's saying its location to the actor, which is the dummy character. And it's causing the health to be set down by 0.25, which is 1/4 of its health. And basically, there's if the character has less or equal to 0 health, then the character is going to be destroyed, the actor. And if true, the character is going to be destroyed, and the particle, the particle effect as well. Okay, so that's that code. We also have, where is it? Can I pick up magic projectile? I think that was the one. Okay, so with the magic projectile, I had to add components, a particle system, a sphere component, and a particle movement component. The particle movement component allows it to move forward. So I set the initial speed and maximum speed to 15,000, so it'll go pretty fast across. Without that, this particle, which I got from an Infinity Blades effector pack, which is a free pack that Unreal Engine gives with anyone that wants to use the content for free. So this wouldn't be moving. This would be stagnant without increasing these parameters. So let's see what else. Was there anything else? Oh yeah, gravity. I had to set the gravity to 0 because originally it's set and it curves down real fast otherwise. But that can be played with if I wanted it to have some gravity. I think that was the majority of the things that I had to go over. It may have been something subtle I missed, but I think that was it. Anyway, that's it for this week's independent study update. I'll continue as I have been.